Hey everybody, welcome to A Grade, a podcast where a college professor and a grade school teacher taste, review, and grade America's coffee roasters, breweries, and more. We have new episodes every Monday at 9 a.m., and I, of course, am Joe, and I am also, of course, joined, as always, by...
Hi everybody, I'm Jackie.
And we are... Oh, geez, what episode are we on? Is this 4 now?
Yeah, number 4.
It feels like a lot and not that many at the same time, right? Yeah, and we actually... I think last episode we said that we were going to do some coffee roasters in New Jersey, but due to some stormy weather, we had to sort of recalibrate our schedules. And we do have plans to go on the road to review some coffee roasters and breweries. We're planning on going to Rhode Island actually in a couple of weeks. But for this week, again, because of conditions outside of our control, we ended up staying a little bit local. But I'm kind of glad we did, because this was a brewery that I actually have wanted to grade for quite some time, essentially since we came up with our grading system. And it's a place that we actually have been probably maybe more so than a lot of other places, but in some ways maybe for good reason. So thank you everybody who's joining us for the first time, everybody who's joining us again. We've gotten a lot of great feedback so far, especially in the last episode or two. So we're very glad and excited for all of that, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Let us know what you think, as we're going forward. If you guys have any suggestions of anywhere that we can go and grade going forward, either here in Long Island or when we explore Rhode Island next week.
Yeah, hit us up on social media. I've had people DMing us you see it too, on Instagram, emailing me, hitting me up on all sorts of social media. So wherever you want to reach us, please feel free.
However you want to contact us, we're keeping a big master log of different places that we want to go and that we want to grade and review. So definitely let us know. Yeah.
And for this week, like I said, this was a place that I guess we haven't been to since we've started the podcast, actually, right?
No, before our month-long road trip, we had gone a couple of times in the summer, but we have not been there now for like 2 or 3 months.
Yeah, and so we have a lot to say, because a lot of the places that obviously we've gone to and we're going to, we've been there for the first time. But it's interesting, if you go back to last episode and listen to that coffee roaster, I had previously been to that roaster years ago, and Jackie had never been there before. So we had very different experiences, in part for that reason. So most of the places are going to be original, but this was an interesting one to sort of reflect upon. Well, how would we view this as sort of new customers maybe versus what we've experienced so far and what we're experiencing now there, or what we experienced today there, right?
Right. So, and I think, again, we should say the name of the place that we went.
I always forget that. I'm the worst podcaster because I just assume that the audience knows exactly what we're talking about.
Well, I think a lot of people will know this brewery, because I know a lot of people that listen have probably been there.
Well, not our German fans, according to the statistics on our podcast website.
No, probably not. But today we went to the Peconic County Brewing in Riverhead, New York.
Yeah. And I'm going to let you kick it off with the atmosphere and ambiance. So for those of you joining us for the first time, we have 4 grading categories. The first one is atmosphere and ambiance. The second one is service. The third one is, of course, beer. And the fourth one is, as always, food. And my voice is kind of shot today because I went back to school for the first day, and I forgot how much work it is to just talk that long. So why don't you get us started, and I'll chime in with some of my thoughts in a moment.
Well, I still have my last week of summer voice available to me.
I'm so jealous.
So starting off with the atmosphere and ambiance, like you said before, it was hard for me to go in there as with a new eye, and I was really trying to, because we've been there a couple of times, and I really like this place. So I was trying to view it as if it was my first time going and with a fresh beginner's mind. So when you walk in, the first thing that you notice about the atmosphere and ambiance, in my opinion, are the big, gigantic windows and the really good natural light coming into this big, open, gorgeous space. The space is very striking for a brewery. Really, it's the high ceilings, really big room that you're in. It's like a big rectangle room, so you can kind of see all around. There's high tops, and for me, when I go to a brewery, I like my brewery to feel like a bar and not a restaurant, and this place really feels like a bar. There's high tables everywhere. It's very well spaced out. There's an outdoor patio, which I think is great. I feel like it's a really comfortable place to sit and stay. Every time that I've been there, I've been in no rush to leave. And that's very important for me when it comes to atmosphere and ambiance. As far as the theme, there is a theme in this brewery that is not really corny, and it's a local theme. Every beer is named after local Long Island places like Cooper's, the Hamptons Haze, a lot of different Long Island themed beers. There's Long Island pictures, not that many, but enough. And I really like that feel. It makes me feel happy to be a Long Islander. There's graffiti art on the wall. There's arrows that show how far you are, quote unquote, from different places. Really good vibe in there. There are some things that I would improve on, but I kind of want to hear what you're thinking first.
I'm thinking as you're thinking that my thoughts are similar in what you noticed, but probably what I would like more of is also a similar assessment. And yeah, everything that you've said so far about it feeling like a big space, I really enjoy about the place, especially in the era of COVID. I feel more comfortable in a space that does feel large, that does feel like you can spread out. In terms of the seating, I thought that was interesting that you mentioned that, because the seating is kind of dissimilar in some ways. And I actually really like that, because you have longish tables for if you have groups, but even those have dividers that I think you can move. So if you did have 2s and 3s at those longer tables, you would still feel comfortable. And even the high tops along the window, they have the one that we were at today was a nice wood table versus the barrels. So there's diversity of the furniture, but also consistency in some ways.
Speaking of furniture, what I noticed that not all bars and breweries do is that there is a place on the chairs to put your feet.
That is
very
huge.
Comfortable.
That is
It does not always happen. It sounds silly, but that does not
No.
always happen. It is a small thought that makes you want to stay in a place because you're comfortable.
That drives me crazy at bars where I sit at a bar and there's not a place to put my feet on the chair or along the bar. Drives me nuts. Because I feel like a little kid dangling my feet if the chairs are too high. And then I'm thinking, what am I doing at this bar?
And my feet were like rested. Every time I go there, I feel like you could stay a while.
Yeah.
It's just a really great, in my mind, atmosphere. But what would you improve on? Because I have some thoughts for that as well.
So I thought that there was just, and I really like the local theme as well. I think they did a fantastic job branding that local theme. But in some ways, it almost feels a little too bare. Mm-hmm. And that's what I would have liked a lot. Like, there's so much space there that you could fill in more. So, for example, there was the bathrooms, which were clean. You know how I love a clean bathroom. They were almost too bare. There was one flyer on the bathroom stall, and I was thinking, why aren't there a ton more flyers of local events and local activities and local going-ons? Because so much about it is driving home this local theme. So again, that's not necessarily so much a criticism as just maybe a further opportunity that really stood out to me. And the other element that really stood out to me that I would have liked maybe a little bit different is something that we've actually talked about before, and it's the outdoor seating when you walk in, because they're just these really nice chairs and tables past where you walk in on the side. It's sort of like a little balcony overlooking this river or canal or whatever, but they're just open seats and they look very comfortable. But I know in the summer when the sun's shining, I can't sit out there, and I handle the sun fairly well compared to some of my friends. A lot of my friends could never sit out there because they would roast like pancakes very, very quickly.
Me too, with that pale skin.
And with the rain, it was raining today and nobody was out there. And I pointed out one of the couch or chair cushions was bending in and it looked sad almost.
It did. There was a giant puddle right near it.
Yeah,
You're like,
right on the seat.
You're like, the chair's a puddle.
Yeah, it was the seat back. The
Yes.
chair back was bending forward and it just looked sad.
I think that's an interesting description, because as we're talking this out, I feel like there are some missed opportunities to make the space feel a little more personal. Mm-hmm. When you're coming for a local theme, you want it to feel a little more like home. And I think they missed some touches to make it feel more personal. Yeah,
I would have also, again, I thought maybe there was a great opportunity to include some games or some...
Giant Jenga.
Well, yeah, you could do giant Jenga or tavern puzzles or books, local books, maybe a corner with local books. There's a lot of little stuff like that I think would really help to drive home that local feel, which I again think otherwise they did a fantastic job of. So overall, those were sort of my impressions. I felt very comfortable there. I felt very welcome there, which obviously gets into service as well. But that does affect the atmosphere and ambiance too. But that's something I want to talk about maybe a little bit more later on, that the bigger the space is, and that can sometimes risk feeling impersonal or even
Great
corporate.
point. Mm-hmm.
I think this was maybe the biggest space that felt the most
personal.
Yeah, sort of personalized and localized. Very rare in my experience, for a space that big to feel that way. I think it's really difficult to accomplish. And I think they, once more, do a really great job at it. But I think there's some of those opportunities there that could drive home that feel even more.
Yeah. So with all of that being said, I'm torn between 2 scores for atmosphere and ambiance.
I'm torn too.
And
go ahead.
You want to go first?
I'll go first.
Go first.
Because I don't, and again, I think it can go either way. I always default by thinking to my best brewery experiences, and we've been to some absolutely knockout fantastic places that really set the bar. I think because of these further opportunities, and I think about the outdoor area and how I've been to this brewery probably, I think we said 5 or 6 times. I've never sat outside, nor do I plan to in the future. I think, again, that's a space that's just, I don't, maybe other people will like it. I mean, if you like sitting out in the sun, it's probably perfect for you, or if it's a cloudy day, but it seems like it's just not optimized for me. So I'm going to go B+ for atmosphere and ambiance, which, again, I should reiterate, especially if anybody listening is a fan of this brewery, that's a fantastic grade. Anything above C is satisfactory. It means, yeah, it's fine. It's satisfactory. I think it's a B+ for me, and I think it's a well-earned B+ for me for atmosphere and ambiance.
I'm so glad you went first, because if you look in my paper where I'm
not looking at
my
your
notes.
Scores. So Jackie writes down her scores beforehand. I just kind of come in thinking how I feel, and then seeing if she can sway me one way or the other.
I'm the nut job in the corner with my notebook, trying to take notes of everything that I see and everything that I feel. I also wrote down a B+. I also gave atmosphere and ambiance a B+. And even though they were missing some very small things, it is a brewery that I come back to time and time again. And that if someone's here from out of town, I would love to take them there. There's a really good feel there that you want to sit for a while. The music is really good that's playing.
Yeah.
We've been there before when there's live music. There wasn't today, but it's also a Monday. So, you kind of wouldn't expect that. And they've only been open for a year.
Yeah, I can't believe it's been that short.
I mean, I definitely could see it getting better and better as time goes on. But as of now, 1 year in, B+, phenomenal.
And when you put it in that context, that's a really fantastic grade. It's funny, I remember we went to a brewery in Denver. Shout out to Cerebral Brewing in Denver. And I think we said it was just on our last road trip when we were working out the grading process. And I think we just offhand graded it ourselves, and we said that I think we came to something like a B, and our friends were kind of like, "Oh, well, we love this place." I'm like, "Oh no, I love this brewery too." They kind of almost thought like, "Oh, well, is that not good?" And we had to reiterate that B is really, really good. It's a really great score. And in fact, that brewery in particular, it's one of the first ones I usually go to if I'm in Denver, because I do like it so much. Mm-hmm. So I know I'm repeating myself, but it's just
make that clear.
Yeah, it's just for the people who are like, "Oh, is a B+ really that good?" Yeah, it's great.
And a B+ for me, the more and more places we go, the more and more I'm hesitant to even go to that B+ as opposed to the B.
Yeah.
Right. But this place, I think, deserves it.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely. Funny how we often do come to the same scores.
Yes.
And in this case, I think it was for very similar reasons. Sometimes it's for different reasons. And maybe it will be for our next category, which is...
Do you want to go into service or beer?
I think we do service.
Service,
right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you start with service.
So the service experience, I think, is pretty consistently strong there. Out of the 5 or 6 times that we've been there, it's quick. Mm-hmm. You don't really wait in line that much at all. The girls working behind the bar are fast and efficient. Today, interestingly enough, we probably had the best service experience that we've had since we started going there. Mm-hmm. The girls work really hard. They spoke to us for a while. And with all of that being said, I would have said the service was just fine. I'm not sure how much they know, particularly about the beers, or they would recommend it. Mm-hmm. But towards the end, when we were leaving, we made a comment about one of the beers that we really loved, and one of the bartenders came over and said she called over the owner / brewer.
Yeah.
And he had a really long, a pretty long conversation with us.
Yeah.
And for me, that's super important. That last minute conversation that we had with the brewer towards the end of our experience there put it in my mind as a higher echelon grade. And I didn't realize how important it is to me when you're going to a brewery or a roaster to have the owner actually be there on the ground. You want that personal experience. You're not going to Applebee's or Starbucks. You're going to somewhere where it's a local small business. And to see the person who is the passionate person behind the product really, really makes me happy. And I think talking to him made me realize why it seems like everybody that works there seems very happy.
Yeah.
The food system is awesome. I don't know if I want to get into this yet. But,
yeah, that's service.
But the service with the food, you when you go there, you put your order in at the bar when you get your beer, and then they give you a buzzer that goes off, and you go over to the food station. So your food is being cooked quick, and it's ready, and it's hot. And I like that for service too. There's no waiting for a waiter to come over.
Yeah.
It's a big enough space where you just kind of walk around. I mean, this is really good service for me.
Yeah, I very much agree with all of that. And it's interesting because I was really thinking with this experience that if we went there when it was busy, I feel like it might be a very different experience. But at the same time, because it is a big space, like we said, and it might wind up feeling a little less personal. But at the same time, when a place isn't that busy, which it wasn't that busy today when we went, that's a real sign when that's the time when, especially if you're going to talk to the owner or a head brewer or whoever that is, they are going to be available if they're going to be available. And in a place like that where you can hide as a person who's doing the brewing, we've been to places where the tanks are right behind the bar. Like you can't run from your customers. A place like this, I could see if they didn't tell me, I wouldn't have any idea who the brewer was or who the owner was. So the fact that they were, and you could tell as well that they were excited to work there. They were happy to work there, which we always say as people who have worked in service industry and have been frequenting the service industry more and more for the podcast, makes such a big difference on your experience as a customer, right?
Yeah.
To sort of feed off their energy and their vibe. And talking to the owner / I guess he's the head brewer too.
Yes.
And just the insight he had, and he was excited to talk to us too. That makes such a difference because again, these people don't have any obligation to talk to us of all people, and they're perfectly happy and willing to. I sort of agree with what you said in terms of the bartenders or beer tenders themselves. I was kind of prodding them for recommendations, and I wasn't necessarily getting about the profiles of the beers themselves. So if it were busier, I could see that sort of feeling like maybe less of a full experience in that sense. But that's kind of true of most breweries, right? So it's really interesting to think about, well, how do you be fair with that sort of adjustment in mind? So I'm kind of a little torn between two scores because if I just go based on my experience today, I kind of am in the A- B+ range, and I'm like, oh, do I tilt one way or the other? And I'm in a good mood.
I feel pretty strongly for my grade.
I'm in a good mood. I'm very happy I survived the first day of class. What did I give for atmosphere and ambiance?
A B+.
B+. I'm gonna go A-. I was very satisfied. I think B+ would also be a fair score for the reasons that we said, but I was really impressed with the knowledge that the brewer owner had and the ideas that he was willing to share and how happy his staff seemed around him too.
Yeah, and I would say that I think if we went back there, they would probably remember us.
Oh, I could
we
totally
learned their names.
Yeah.
Jeff.
Totally see that, yeah.
We talked to Jeff for a while. He was awesome.
Yeah.
Jokes. We talked to the two bartenders. We were joking with them. You like kind of learn a little bit about them. It's just such a great the service in there, you can tell that they're happy employees. Mm-hmm. The way everything functions so efficiently.
God, the food comes out so hot.
It's so efficient in there.
You have the buzzer and you just go up and get your food and it's super fresh.
It's one of the most well-run breweries we've been to in the country.
Yeah.
Really. It was more well-run than any brewery we've been to on Long Island. I have to agree with the A minus.
far.
I
You're
think
gonna
it's
go
A
with that?
grade. Yeah, I
Okay.
think it's an A grade.
Yeah. I think that's
service experience. I think
that's a very
A minus
yeah,
is
I think that's a very fair
score.
grade. Yeah,
Yes.
I think that's a very fair grade. That's great. Awesome.
Beer, start us off.
Oh boy, beer. So this is once more an interesting assessment because we have had their beer in the past. I'm just going to say straight up, I think their beer has gotten much better over the past year. I remember the first time I went thinking, yeah, this is some pretty good beer, some decent, some good. I felt like this time, and they had some new beers on tap that I had never seen before. They had but I remember them. And that is such a huge sign that their beer is getting really good. Because a lot of times we go to a brewery and I say, what did we even drink? And it's just because, yeah, the beer was fine. It was maybe even good. There were some really good ones. And the three that stood out to me were the banana Hefeweizen?
Yes.
There was also
It was called the Banana Gasset.
Banana Gansett.
Yeah.
Right, which is a local town reference. All the beers had local references. What was the crushable one?
It was the summer
ale, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the summer ale.
I'll give
it
you
was
the name
described as crushable in the description, and that's I think I said it without even knowing. I was like, "This is so crushable."
Cooper's Summer Ale.
Cooper's, which is
Cooper's is a local beach.
And the Sunrise Chai Nitro
Cream.
Yeah, cream one, which is kind of a pun on highway, right? Chai. That beer really kind of took it up a notch. That was the first beer of theirs that I've ever had where I said, wow.
Yes, you did. When we say wow,
yeah,
wow is that involuntary wow.
Yeah, that's getting into A grade territory. And we said specifically that beer reminded us, interestingly enough, of Brewlink Brewing in Indianapolis, which there was one beer there, a chai. No, it wasn't a chai. It was a matcha tea.
The green tea matcha.
Green tea matcha.
That we brought home a bunch for all of our friends
Kiwi lime
to try.
sour. It was this crazy concoction.
And remember the French toast one there?
Yeah.
Yes.
And that one was so good. And this sort of reminded me of that. This chai, creamy beer, because it had such a rich profile of flavors that kind of meld together. And I specifically told the brewer, I said, this is what I want to see more of.
It tasted like dessert.
Oh, it was so good. So that really kind of elevated their beer to me to a higher level. Having said that, a lot of the others were good, but that one was sort of what wowed me overall.
I feel really similar. I think a lot of the beers are definitely above average beers. Yeah. I really enjoy drinking them. You can get kind of whatever you're looking for. They have good IPAs. They have good light beers. And now we know that they have really good, like more desserty type beers, right? Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's the right beer terminology.
Yeah, I mean, there's different sort of styles that kind of fit into that general
Joe knows
vibe.
a lot more beer specifics of beer than me, but I'm learning.
I've drank a lot more beer than you have. You're mistaking experience for credentials here.
Yes. And I think if I went back, there would, we did flights today, which they do have flights, which we have learned that a lot of breweries don't have flights.
Yeah.
Which is really sometimes frustrating. And I think if I went next time, depending on my mood, I might get the Dream Girl IPA, which a lot of people love there, or I might get the light summer one. And, above, with all of this being said, in my heart, I feel like I still am going to give the beer a B.
Interesting.
Which is above average, above satisfactory, above everything. But I never had the wow moment that you had.
Interesting.
And that's still amazing. Like I think about it, like I gave this brewery some A's and I love it here. And I'm going to keep coming back. But I feel like I still think a B is a fair score. I loved it, but it's a B in my mind.
I'm going to go B+, and it's because of that fancy one we were talking about. What was it again? The chai way.
The chai way.
I'm kind of thrown off by the names of them because they're so unique and they're so original. The Sunrise Chai Way, that one was a wow one to me. And I'm actually very excited. And I told the brewer this, like, I'm so excited for him to do more beers like that or in its likeness that are kind of very specifically crafted with their own very unique profiles. So I'm very excited to see what they come up with moving forward. But even that amber lager we had, that was a really good beer. That was
really good.
A very unique, specific beer. So they have evolved over the past year, in my opinion. I think when I first went, I probably would have said their beers were like, honestly, C+, B-.
Right.
And I'm willing to say that they're probably B+ beers overall now. There's been a market improvement over the past year, in my opinion.
And I, you know, again, this is where service gets into everything. Talking to the owner, he has a pulse on what his beers are.
Yeah, I was trying
and
to
where they're
push
going
him to brew the Kolsch.
Yeah.
I was like, so Kolsch
he was
is
not really having it.
Yeah, Kolsch is a specific style of beer, and I was trying to push him, and he was just like, I'm a businessman, and no.
He was like, I need to have 2 giant, what are they called? Barrels? Kilns?
Yes, cisterns or whatever.
Yeah. He's like, I had 2 of those filled with pumpkin.
Yeah,
I
pumpkin
give
ale.
the people what they want.
Yeah, which
So
understandable. But
we get it.
I told him if he does decide to do a Kolsch, he has at least one Kolsch drinker.
Yes, and maybe more after this episode of the podcast.
Kolsch's are great. If you live anywhere where a brewery does a Kolsch, check it out because they're quite good.
Yeah.
Usually.
So I think we're basically on the same page. The one beer spoke to you. Maybe it gave you the wow, where
Yeah.
I didn't quite get the wow.
Yeah.
But I mean, the wow only happens.
But you really like that beer.
I love the beer.
So how did you not wow it? You
Because
wowed it. I saw you
didn't
wow.
wow it. I don't think I would drink like an entire thing of it.
Oh, I would chug it.
I would get the nice summer ale.
Oh, I
or
would chug that too.
his pilsner that's going to go back
Yeah.
on. It's a nice light pilsner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'm also, as I mentioned earlier, I'm excited by the fact that this beer is really stepping it up to the next
Yes.
level, in my opinion.
Can't wait to see what's to
Yeah.
come. Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely. Yeah.
My
cool.
favorite category.
Food is your favorite category?
Kind of, yeah.
Food is exciting. Food does excite me.
I love food.
I have strong opinions on the food here, but I'm sure you do too. So if you want to start.
No, you go first. I want to hear these strong opinions.
So I feel like, here's a controversial take. I feel like their food is almost too good.
Oh,
Yeah.
what does that mean?
It means that I ate so much of it so fast.
You did.
that I was full. I could barely finish the second flight because the food was so good.
Yes, you run out of room for the beer.
And it's not like it's huge portions or anything.
No.
They're very reasonable portions. It's just so filling. It's so rich. So we got the pretty basic, just they call it the PCB, Peconic County Brewing Burger, I
Yes.
think. It comes with onions, tomato, lettuce on a brioche bun, really good cheddar. But even, again, the ingredients seemed quality. Like that cheese was really good cheese, and the fries were really
The fries were
solidly
real life
cooked.
potatoes. Really
Yeah.
well made.
Really well made. I was joking that a good test for French fries is if I have to season them with spice or salt or pepper or something like that. And I didn't really have to do any of that. And the other thing we got, which we always love,
My favorite.
is a good pretzel. And we remembered, the one thing we remembered from way back, I think one of the first times we went, I think we talked to that same guy briefly.
Yes.
And he had said, this was probably a year ago, he said that he thinks of this brewery as a pretzel place that also sells good beer. And he does make a really good pretzel.
Spot on. It is it's a wow pretzel.
It's a great pretzel. It's a
good pretzel. The first time I ate it, I had a wow. I closed my eyes and I just enjoyed the buttery goodness of this pretzel.
Yeah, you could smell it.
Oh, it's so good.
Oh, it's so rich.
Definitely made there. Homemade. And again, everything comes out piping hot because the minute it comes out, your buzzer goes off and there's heat lamps and you grab it and it's fresh. So good. Fresh ingredients.
Yeah. Do you have other thoughts on the food?
I want to try more.
I agree.
We kind of get the same stuff every time we go there.
But that's
because
actually a
we
good
really
sign.
like it.
Yeah.
We like it so much.
Yeah.
The only thing about the food is that it is a little heavy when you're drinking beer. But that's not a bad thing. Like I could get a salad. They have options on the menu.
Yeah.
So, it's not a big deal, but you do get full. But I don't think that doesn't really affect. I'm not sure if that affects my grade for the food. Maybe a little bit, just because after I ate, I was kind of done drinking beer because it was heavy.
I agree 100%. And when I think about food for a brewery, I think that is a factor overall. When I think about other A-grade food experiences at breweries, there's a few that come to mind. Whistle Punk in Spokane came to mind with a really good balance of grease and somehow still light.
Yes.
That I was able to crush beer.
We ate first and then we crushed beer pretty much.
Yeah, which is incredible. Brewery Bavana in, I think, Raleigh, I went to once. They have beers that pair with foods on the menu. So there's a lot of unique ways.
And in Portland, with the Yala was the name of the food that we ate.
Oh, at
Level Up.
Level Up, that was good too.
That was great food.
That was great food. So I'm gonna go A- for food here. I think it's fantastic. And I don't know what else to say other than that.
That was my score as well.
Really?
Was
Yeah,
an A-. I think the food is delicious. I think you can go there and just have dinner and be really happy.
Oh, 100%.
I mean, their food is really high quality. It's what I kind of expect when I go to a brewery. I want food that good.
It's funny, we talk about that, how sometimes we go to breweries and they just have chips. And you think to these experiences, and I've been to places where you sort of get the vibe, well, we're not about food, we're about good beer. And I'm like, but I'm hungry.
Right. And what we do, there will come a time. I feel like we've really lucked out because we've gone on the podcast to Six Harbors and we've gone here. And both places have been really phenomenal. But we've also, when we do go to a place that only option is chips, we might not be as lenient.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And I think that's fair.
Yes,
honestly.
agreed.
It's just not for whatever reason that they're doing what they're doing, it's not going to be the same experience for you, right? As a beer consumer. So
there's only one thing left to do now.
Oh boy, average out the grades.
So
what do we have here in all the categories?
Yeah. Overall, Joe gave Atmosphere a B+. I gave it a B+. For service, you gave it an A-. I gave it an A-. For beer, Joe gave it a B+. I gave it a B. And for food, we have A- and A-.
Wow, so we're almost exactly
on. We're spot on. The only difference is that one beer grade.
Wow, that's really close. Sometimes we line up entirely with all of our grades, but that's actually almost there.
I think I know.
I think I know too. I'm pretty
Should we do our 3, 2, 1?
3, 2, 1.
I think that was a big hit.
Yeah.
Wait, so we start at 3 and we go down to 1.
3, 2, 1, and then we say the grade. Yeah.
Okay.
You ready? 3, 2, 1.
B+.
High five. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I will just say overall, it's a really fantastic experience. It's a really welcoming experience. I think even if we went back and it was busy, we would still have a really great time.
Agreed.
We've been there when it's been busier in the past, and I think we've really enjoyed it. And I think it really makes a difference that the beer has just improved over time.
It's going to just keep getting better, I think, too, this experience. Yeah. I think there's potential here to be A grade.
Oh, for sure, 100%. And that's what we look for as well, I feel, especially with places that we've maybe been to before in this case. And you can see how it's evolved over time, and it's clearly continuing to evolve in a positive direction, which is so cool to see, especially when it's essentially one of your local places.
Yeah.
Right? It's not too far from us. It's maybe 40 minutes from us.
Absolutely. I love this brewery. I'm really excited that we had a good experience today because I was excited to grade them. And
yeah, I want to promote them.
And I want, like if you're on the east end of Long Island in the Riverhead area, there are a lot of breweries that you can go to.
Yeah.
And we'll probably rate and review a lot of them.
Yeah.
But, I'm not sure how many are going to be as good as Peconic County Brewing, and they've only been open for a year.
Yeah, so check them out. They are open and brewing. For sure.
Yeah, check them out. Get a beer, get a burger, get a pretzel.
You will not
say hi to Jeff.
Yeah, say hi to Jeff.
Enjoy putting your feet on the chair.
Yeah, but enjoy the clean bathroom.
Clean bathrooms. Clean countertops.
Clean countertops, yeah.
I'll take it.
Things that we look for in places, again, whether it's coffee roasters or breweries. And so I guess that's everything. And I'll just say very briefly for next week, I believe we will be starting kind of our Rhode Island tour.
Yes.
We'll be going to Rhode Island for a bit and checking out coffee roasters, checking out breweries. So we'll probably start next week's episode with the coffee roaster because, again, it's not necessarily brewery then coffee roaster every week, but we try to maintain somewhat of a balance like that. So we'll probably go back to coffee roaster next week somewhere in Rhode Island. So if you have recommendations, I think we're going to try to go to Providence.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you know any,
let us know. Hit us up on social media. Please rate and review. Grade our podcast wherever you listen to podcasts.
Hopefully, we get A grade.
Yeah, Apple, iTunes, Spotify, all that stuff. And just a reminder, if you feel like leaving us a tip because you think we've done an A grade job with this podcast, we have a Patreon, and you can check us out on patreon.com/A grade podcast and leave us a donation, because that will go into fueling our further reviews, right?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you guys so much for listening. We can't wait to see you again next week.
Yeah, and until next time, stay safe out there, be well, drink well, and see you then.
Bye.
Bye-bye.